happy to see. It is the first one I've seen since I've been here, actually. We'll just reverse and get into position. Yeah, we'll work as magic with the camera. Not going to be easy, the bush is quite thick, but we'll give it some time. Beautiful. So now, if we watch closely, we'll notice that he is eating a buffalo thorn, which is the same tree that I spoke about yesterday morning, the one that ripped my t-shirts, and it's incredible the way it can actually feed on this tree without getting its lips tangled and its tongue caught, but they are highly adapted and suited to feeding on these thorny bushes. And also willing to take not the risk, but take one or two pricks to get to the very tasty leaves. On his neck there's a red-billed oxpecker, which we can see doing a great job at keeping off the ectoparasites, the blood-sucking ticks. Interesting to see how the oxpecker almost combs through the hair, looking for its prey. You can hear the oxpeckers calling now. A very, very useful call to remember when spending time in the bush. The reason being, when on foot or even in a vehicle, you can be driving along in quite thick vegetation, and if you hear that call, it's an indicator that there is a mammal there, and what could be potentially a dangerous mammal, a buffalo, a rhino. So a very useful call to have lodged in your memory somewhere for when on foot, or simply when looking for mammals. If we have a closer look at the head of the oxpeck, the head of both the oxpeck and the giraffe, because I guess they're both in the same place. Oh, this is wonderful. So, for explanations purposes, we could not have asked for a better situation than this. The oxpecker has been rubbing its bill actually on the bald top parts of those two horn-like structures called ossicones. Those thousands or millions of years ago would have potentially been long horns, and over the millennia the giraffe has lost the requirement to have these horns, and this is all it's left with, these two little stumps, and it allows us to sex the giraffes. So this individual, you would have noticed I'm calling him a male, and you can distinguish that by the fact that at the top of those two horn-like structures there is no hair. It's a bald surface, whereas the females will have a very distinctive tuft of hair coming off the top of those horns, or also known as ossicones. The reason why the men lose the hair is not only stress, it may be a contributing factor, but it's from fighting with other male giraffes. So they'll use their head like a battering ram and swing that long neck into their opponents, and that obviously takes off the hair. Beautiful. He's having a good look at us, we're having a good look at him. Win-win situation. is incredible how the mutualism between animals and nature occurs. Such a small bird helping such a large mammal. Beautiful. Really, really beautiful. I'm going to reverse and one last time and see if we can get another view. At the moment in this part of the reserve, we don't have too many giraffe, it seems. So I think we should make the most of spending time with them. I'm certainly enjoying myself. The fact that he's 4 meters taller than our view from here in the vehicle is also an advantage to us. He may spot something that may interest us. Sorry folks, it's going to be very difficult for us to get an angle, a better angle on this giraffe, but we'll wait a moment or two and see if he moves out. In the meantime, I've got a question from Clancy in Columbus. Welcome back, Clancy. Good to have you on board again. The bracelets all do have little meanings. I will start talking through them now. So, if you have a look at, we'll start at the top. This is a snake. It was made from scratch in front of my eyes by some Samburu blacksmiths up in Samburu land, which is in central Kenya, and these blacksmiths are really talented, and they actually use air blowers made out of goat skin that they pump furiously to create a fire that's hot enough to melt this metal. And once the metal was melted in a small pot, they poured the molten metal into a small kind of rift in the sand that they made, and that creates kind of a long, fairly round shape. And thereafter they get the old hammer and anvil out and beat it into shape. And this was literally bent onto my arm when the metal was still warm and pliable. I love snakes, so that is why I got them to design the snake. Usually the bangle will finish with a diamond to diamond head, and I just got them to create a tail instead of 2 diamond shapes meeting. The wooden bracelet is from Vietnam, I believe. It is a gift from a good friend of mine, Murray Beatty. He's in Johannesburg at the moment. And over here we have a anti-poaching bracelet, which another good friend of mine started designing and making and selling to create funds for rhino poaching. The couple one over here is from Greece. I was over there a few months ago, and the green one is also from a friend of mine that works for a lion organization. They focus on protecting wild animals, protecting domestic animals from wild lions in places where they do both occur and there are no fences between them. And a lot of their funding goes into a new initiative that was actually developed by a very young Kenyan living out in the local villages, or they call them manyatas over there in Kenya. And he discovered that if he attached flashing lights around their boma or kraal, essentially a wooden thorny fence that they keep their cattle and livestock, goats, they keep them in there at night. If he connected a few lights that were to flash every few seconds, it would prevent predators attempting to get into that boma or kraal. So now they're obviously creating funds and generating awareness, teaching other local Kenyans that if they do manage to get a small solar panel and string it up to some flashing LED lights, they can drastically reduce the amounts of livestock that they lose to lions. So a great initiative, and that's from another friend of mine. The one with my name on was a gift from a Kenyan lady who I worked with at a lodge in southern Kenya overlooking Kilimanjaro in a beautiful area called the Chulu Hills. It's got the Kenyan colors and flag on it, and my name. The Kenyans are very fond of putting their names on either bracelets or even beaded belts that they make. So, yeah, I think that sums it up. I hope you enjoyed that, Clancy, and good to have you back on Drive with us. Subsequently, the Giraffe has moved into a better area for us to view, so let's try and get one more look at it. That's a good question. Jan has asked whether the female giraffe also fight like the male giraffe do. As far as I'm aware, they don't. Nature can often surprise us, and it may have happened in the past, but as far as I'm aware, I've never heard of or seen any footage of the female giraffe fighting. And thankfully, I think the men do all the fighting over the ladies, and then the ladies simply choose which men they desire to. So I guess the ladies are happy to share all of the most handsome male giraffes. Again, he's moved from a buffalo thorn that we saw him feeding on initially to another buffalo thorn over here. And you might ask yourself, well, why would they keep moving around if they could just sit and eat the leaves from one buffalo thorn for an hour or two? There's plenty of leaves to go by. There's a reason for that, and that is another one of the plant's defense mechanisms against herbivores. The one mechanism being the sharp thorns and small leaves, making it difficult for herbivores to consume a lot of them. So from that we can assume that plants with big leaves and no thorns are typically not highly nutritious and or tasty. Whereas the smaller the leaf becomes and the more thorny the bush becomes, the more sought after, nutritious and tasty that leaf is, as a general rule. So that's the first defense mechanism, the thorns and the small leaves. And the second defensive mechanism, which is really interesting, is that as soon as the plant is being fed on, it realizes that it's under attack, and it basically sends out a broadcast in the form of highly acidic tannins that make the taste of the leaves deteriorate rapidly. So after it's fed on this tree for a few minutes, obviously these messages in the form of acidic tannins would have reached out into all of the leaves, hence the giraffe moving from tree to tree every couple of minutes. I'm just going to try and reverse again to get a better angle.